Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC 237 from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm your host, Paul Shaughnessy, joined by my co-host, Cody Saftic.
Going from a card in Canada that we thought we had the inside scoop in, and it was a nice night. Minus, I was totally wrong on Cowboy. Yeah. Going to a Brazilian card that is very difficult to gain any type of edge. So I'm glad I have you here, Paul. You can help me break this one down.
We can walk through a bunch of these fights this week. It's hard. I only have one bet in officially right now, as it is. We'll get to that fight in a bit. But yeah, before we get to any of that, last week's winner by the name of KV_Smooth.
KV Smooth.
Pretty slick name. You won 20 DK dollars, so congratulations for that this week. We got 4 people on the card, unless my math is wrong, who are over 40 years old. We got some old men, old fucks.
This is an old-timey card, Paul. Because not only do you have all the 40-year-olds, but you also have Jared Cannonier's 35. Going down the card,
Sergio Moraes has got to be approaching
Clay Guida's
something.
37. Sergio Moraes is 36. Thiago Alves is 35.
Yeah,
and then we have all the 40-year-olds. So, yeah.
So there's 4 40-year-olds that I'm counting. We have Anderson Silva, TRINALDO, Nogueira, and Baby J PENN. Which 40-year-old has the best chance to win this week? Or who do you think is going to win? This is strictly a draw, so if you get the right one, it doesn't matter. Mayo picks a name out of a hat. I don't even know what he does. I've never actually seen how he does it, but he goes about it.
But we are not in the rewards program department, so we do not know.
Do not deflect any complaints to him.
At PME.
At the PME. So yeah, what you have to do, give the episode a like. Let us know which 40-year-old fighter has the best chance of winning this week, or who you like out of the 40-year-old dudes. And that'll put you, and leave your DK handle, and that'll put you into a draw for 20 DK dollars. Without further ado, let's just get into the main event here. We have the strawweight title on the line. Jessica Andrade taking on Rose Namajunas. 8,300 Andrade, 7,900 Namajunas. Minus 120 Andrade, plus 100 Namajunas. I'll let you take it away to start.
Well, Paul, honestly, it's a tough fight. You could cut this one down many of ways. Both women are more than capable of winning, but myself personally, I like grinders. I like people who are going to move forward, who have good takedowns, good pressure, very strong, game, can go multiple rounds. Jessica Andrade ticks off a lot of boxes for me personally. Now, she's not a better striker than Rose Namajunas. She's going to have trouble with the range. She's going to have trouble getting on the inside. But once she does, she's going to be strong. The other thing for myself personally is like confident fighters. And Andrade has really seemingly 3-fight winning streak, fighting at home, title opportunity. This is a huge opportunity for her. Rose on the flip side, yes, she's the champion, but there's just always that question of how confident is she? And she beats Joanna the first time. In my opinion, one of the biggest upsets in MMA, despite the fact that people were backing her publicly. Just the manner in which she beats Joanna and how history Joanna was and how storied of a career that she had, it's a huge win. Then she doesn't want to fight her again, but they talk her into it. She fights her again. She gets outstruck. I thought she won. Some people don't understand that. I thought she won 3-2, but not an easy fight. Then you sit on the sidelines and you publicly now state, how nervous you are going into this fight. You know what I mean? The style is going to go for Andrade, in my opinion. The confidence is going for Andrade. The fact that it's in Brazil, like, as a champion, why would you agree to that? Why would you go to somebody else's backyard
and fight
them over
has no
there?
leverage, Cody.
Yeah, maybe, because she hasn't fought in a while and they're talking her into it. I don't know. Regardless, Brazilian women have shown that they pretty much dominate these classes and they're world championship material, and Andrade is she was destined to be a champion at 115. She did not look particularly great against Joanna, but she had 2 takedowns. She had multiple takedowns that she was just a hair away from completing, but Joanna was able to get up. If Rose doesn't get up, Rose, again, maybe I actually give her the grappling advantage. I think if she was to take Andrade's back, she could submit her. Maybe she does submit her off her back. I don't know. But I ain't going to bet Rose to submit her off her back. I want to bet whoever's on top pounding away, which is likely going to be Jessica Andrade. Now, I have I have my senses to me. I know that she's going to get outstruck standing. I mean, if you look at her prior fights, the Tisha Torres fight, she kind of got outstruck standing the first round. The Claudia Gadelha fight, she definitely got outstruck the first round. She has that John Lineker style of just bombarding you with hooks, and against lesser talent, that works. Against someone who's a skilled striker like Joanna or Rose, it's not going to work. She's probably going to get picked off, but she'll go to her wrestling. That's what I need out of her. That's her path to victory here. She's a decent price on DraftKings. She's near money, but it's hard to pull the trigger and bet the challenger as the favorite. I'll admit. I know there's a lot of people with Rose, and she's got her merits to her as well. But the style that wins fights, whether it's entertaining or pretty, or you like the fighter or you don't, this is the style, is what Jessica Andrade does. And if she does that come Saturday, she should get the victory. So that's who I'm going to go with. Again, close fight, but I'm going to go with Andrade.
I think it was our fan of the show. His name's like Justin.
Right.
Like it's like a play of words off of disgusting. He's got like this real creepy photo, but nice guy all around. He was the one who brought up that he's like, isn't this just Sandhagen and Lineker? And I kind of, in terms of the striking, it's pretty much the same type of style, right? It's like you have one who's going to be giving up a lot of reach and is going to be winging hooks and stuff just to get inside. And then you have Rose, who's going to be trying to piece her up from range, straight down the pipe. That's the style that she's going to play. Andrade, though, has so much more of a wrestling game than Johnny Lineker. So there's there's a lot of other things in this fight. Like there's so many other factors in this. One thing I've wanted all week, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted all week to bet Namajunas in this spot. But based on her, I got PTSD from the Conor McGregor incident, and like just in general,
having an emotional support dog, and now having to go to Brazil and defend.
I want to see her at the press conference. I want to see her at the weigh-ins. I want to see all of these things before I make a decision. But early in the week, and like when I think about how this fight plays out, even though I had Lineker winning against Sandhagen, and I picked him, and I still even thought that he probably, if that round one between them was super close, you could have gone either way.
Close fight.
I do think that 5 rounds probably favors Rose as well. But
would 5 rounds have favored John Lineker? You're goddamn right it would have. He was fine enough. He found them all fight. I mean, Sandhagen can take it, but I want to see that as a 5-rounder. This is a 5-rounder, you're right. Rose Namajunas has got an incredible gas tank. She shouldn't gas. She shouldn't tire. I
got to see all these other things. Like, I got to see her interviews this week. I know that sometimes that can be complete noise and stuff, but I think she is kind of a special case. It's like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong with my psychological assessment that I'll kind of break down with her. But I feel as though with her, you really got to get a sense of like where her head's at, because this crowd is going to be telling her that they want her to die. And is she ready for that? Is she going to be prepared for that? Is she going to be stone cold steel face like she was in those?
She will, sure.
Hopefully for her sake, because if she's any sort of emotional, I worry about her chances.
Yeah, I think the argument when you talk about I'm worried about her being emotional or her being, whatever the case is, stressed out, or the PTSD, is that she fought under those exact same circumstances her last 2 fights and got double wins over, one of the best to ever do it. So maybe
she seemed to be able to block out a bunch of that, a bunch of the threats coming back from Joanna.
Right. Maybe she's just able to deal with it. But of course, in the second Joanna fight, again, she got soundly outstruck by like 50 significant strikes, and she lost rounds 3 and 4. It wasn't as if she appears to be an invincible champion, but I'm always going to go back to this, Paul. And you know, you're a Gregor Gillespie guy. You're a Khabib guy. You're a Tatiana Suarez guy. You like that style of just take them down and overpower and grind them. And Rose is a fancy finesse striker. She's easy to be a fan favorite. A lot of people like her. They're backing her. That's why it's a near money fight. I think if she wasn't the champion, she wasn't a fan favorite, stylistically speaking, Andrade would be a bigger favorite. But because she's a champion and because she's a fan favorite, she's still holding on to
would not put Andrade's grappling credentials up in the category that you just did.
Would you, fair, but would you put Andrade's grappling credentials, say, in the realm of Carla Esparza? Yes, you would.
Yeah.
She's way stronger than Carla Esparza. She's not as nearly technical as wrestling, but she's so damn strong. She just gets the fight to the ground. As far as the fight being on the ground, she's got better submissions than Carla Esparza. She's got a better top game than Carla Esparza.
Submitted
And she's
against Marion Renault.
that was a long time ago, and at 135 pounds. 115 is this girl's division. She is massively strong for this weight class. She is just going out there and butchering people who, I mean, Rose versus Carolina, close fight. Carolina versus Andrade, not a close fight. Like she's able.
First round strawweight knockouts, not exactly a sustainable thing in this business.
Fair. But when Andrade is the total package in that, remember when she was at 135 and she was fighting Raquel Pennington and she's picking up this girl in the air and she's slamming her? And then you watch her in the UFC and it's like, oh wow, at 115, she's incredibly strong. The wrestling's there, just mostly based on the strength. The punching power is there, similar to a John Lineker. He's 135 pounds, but he can knock people out. She's in the same boat. She's 115 pounds, but yet she can still knock some people out. She's got a good submission game. She's got a good rear naked choke. She's got a good guillotine choke. Her cardio seems to be okay. She can go rounds. She's got a lot that you can bank on. Now, what I'm going back to is that when Rose fought Carla Esparza, it was a tough finale, and it was for the strawweight title. And what she dealt with, what she couldn't really deal with, was that power wrestling game. She got taken down. When she did get taken down, she wasn't able to submit her, and that's a long way to spend the fight. And eventually,
it's a long time since that fight too. If we're gonna say that Marion Renault doesn't matter,
you're right.
Then we have to, be fair on both sides.
But what's in your opinion?
I think Rose is gonna win.
What's her weak point? And
gonna win
out
by
of her whole game, what's her weak point? We know she can strike.
Her defensive wrestling.
We know she can grapple. It's the defensive wrestling. Nobody's really tested it because it's a division with people who are unable to test it. But here's somebody that can.
Suarez is coming for this strap, regardless of who wins this.
They're just gonna keep it warm.
That is what is going on here.
So this will be okay. Let's say this is Tatiana Suarez.
I think here's my greasy, not even.
You would bet that Tatiana would just take her down at will and smash her. So why can't Andrade, who's not as good as Tatiana, I admit, why couldn't she just do the same thing? She just got to stick to the plan.
She's got to stick to the plan. I think what's going to end up happening is Rose is going to outpoint. Andrade here.
Standing, yeah.
And then everyone's gonna be like, did you see her wrestling, her takedown defense? Oh my God, she looked so good. We're gonna get a nice line on Tatiana Suarez after she dismisses
Andrade. Stuffs in some takedowns and get a good price.
She's fighting
oh, right. Suarez.
After she gets rid of her. And then we're going to get it's going to be, Suarez will probably still be like minus 200, but that's nice. And Suarez will go in and absolutely ragdoll this girl.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen. But as I said, I don't have the cojones to bet Namajunas right now.
Fair.
Because there's just too many questions that I don't feel are answered with somebody who, let's face it, is a little bit maybe mentally frail.
Right.
It's hard to say, but I'm putting my own money down on these things. So I gotta say what's
I'll admit
troubling me.
It's a close fight. But gun to the head, you're taking Rose?
Rose, yeah.
Gun to the head, I'll take Andrade. Are you gonna play it on DK?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
it's a good price. Mid range, you got to get in there.
$7,900.
Main event, five rounds. Like there's good chances that either the winner probably ends up on a winning lineup. Unless crazy shit happens. Yeah. We move on down the card. We have Jared Cannonier taking on Anderson Silva. Cannonier, 8,700 minus 140 favorite. Anderson Silva, 7,500 and plus 120. Cannonier kind of looking like a bit of a new man once he went to 185. This guy used to fight at heavyweight, then 205. And frankly, I watched the embedded and all the other stuff. It's like he is straight jacked at 185. Like this guy has found his weight class. So good on him. But I don't think that he really proposed that he has anything that Anderson Silva hasn't seen before. We saw Anderson Silva fairly competitive against the new interim title champion in Israel Adesanya. Now we talk about how there was a bit of a mentor block, I suppose, for Israel Adesanya, where he's like, this is my buddy, this is my thing. But it's like, and maybe that doesn't apply to Cannonier whatsoever. Maybe he doesn't give a shit about Anderson. I don't know. But everyone kind of has seen all of his flashy moves over the years. So I think people just end up going in hesitant against him. I think Anderson Silva is 100% live in this fight.
Yeah,
we're in Brazil too, so it's like it's Cannonier's got to finish him. Like if it's just striking, even if Cannonier lands the bigger shots, but like Anderson maybe peppers him a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a finesse technique. Uses finesse and technique from distance. Lands a little bit, like anything close, probably in that crowd, potentially retirement fight for Anderson Silva here. Like, I think he's fully 100% live. I haven't turned the corner to make a bet on him yet. The line actually, it was plus 130 on him as of last night when I made the board. Now it's plus 120. So money's starting to come in on him. I'll probably end up by the time we get to fight night on Anderson Silva, plus 120, plus 130.
Yeah, I looked at it and I thought, damn, here's a situation where Anderson Silva's fighting a guy who's credible and seems to be in contention. I mean, he's got to win a couple more fights, don't get me wrong, but a guy that, he's hanging around that contention anyways, and he's got a viable shot here. What Jared Cannonier doesn't really deal well with is like awkward, rangy, technical strikers, so to speak. But let's just look at the Jan Blachowicz fight. Jan Blachowicz is a low-volume guy who's pretty technical, can take the damage. Cannonier does not look good. He loses. The Dominic Reyes fight. Reyes is 6'4". He's not even a polished kickboxer, but he's a rangy, awkward type kickboxer. Gets beat up. Then he makes the drop down to 185. You're right. But Dave Branch has 1 foot out the door, isn't a long-rangey kickboxer by no means, doesn't really have all that many tricks standing, and has just not looked good recently. Anderson can pose some serious problems here because, yeah, it's 185 pounds and Jared Cannonier looked really good, but Anderson Silva's giant at 185. Like, he fights at 205 on occasion and does not look out of place. This is the guy that fought Daniel Cormier, and it didn't look like there was a massive size disparity. And Cormier is the current heavyweight champ, So Anderson Silva's a guy that he's big. He's an awkward, long, rangy style kickboxer. He's in Brazil. All he's really got to do is do enough that the fans are going to be cheering. If he gets hit a couple times and rolls with it and smiles and does his goofy Anderson Silva thing and kicks you in the leg a couple times and the fans roar, that means something over there. So Cannonier, like you said, ball's in his court. He's got to do something. He's got to push the pace. He's got to push the action. And what we see sometimes is that he gets complacent. He used to have a knock on him where he got tired all of a sudden. And then when he gets tired, he stops throwing those big, athletic, quick, powerful shots, and he gets complacent. When he gets complacent, he gets appointed. If that's the case here with Anderson Silva, there's a problem. But I'm a sucker for this. He had 1 fight at 185. He looked so good, I bought into the hype. Like, Paul, I know he's 35. He's so jacked. It reminds me of Khalil Roundtree's last fight. I picked against Khalil Roundtree's last time out. A lot of people picked against Khalil Roundtree's last time out against Eric Anders. And he's down at 185, and there's no way you could ever pack more muscle onto a human body. So jacked, career best performance, found his weight class. The problem with Anderson is that I would need Anderson to outpoint Jared Cannonier. But what I'm seeing from Anderson's last couple fights is he's the one that's complacent now. He's just a counterpuncher. He's always been a counterpuncher, but he allows his opponent too often to dictate the pace and lead the dance. Against Izzy, he allowed Izzy to lead the dance, and Izzy got off on him and landed some nice combinations that he was able to take.
There's a lot of pressure.
Is he going to take those same punches from Jared Cannonier? Jared Cannonier, not a better striker than Israel Adesanya, but a bigger power puncher than Israel Adesanya. The guy used to fight at a heavyweight and had power there. So yes, 35, not particularly young. I don't know if he's going to continue getting better. I mean, it would seem like he's probably going to start regressing at some point, but it looked like at 185, here's a contender. Here's a guy that's going to go out there and be a serious problem for some people. And then my last thing is this fight makes really no sense on a UFC matchmaking standpoint. Like, out of all of the people, of all the fights that you could sell with Anderson Silva, like Jared Cannonier, it makes no sense. Unless they're buying into the Cannonier thing too and think, he might go out and knock Anderson Silva out and look good.
Anderson Silva has seen everything that this guy could possibly throw at him.
But what's a win over Jared Cannonier do for Anderson Silva? He's 1-2 in his last 2 fights. He's not established at 185.
But who would you
He's
give
got
him?
1 fight. I just mean there's got to be better names, or there's got to be other people that you could be fighting.
Not
okay.
Like, he's already fought Brunson.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to see that fight again.
Anderson's fought everybody.
Let's just bring up the middleweight ranking.
Sure.
And just to give an idea. But go on, keep talking.
What do you want me to talk about? I'm just saying that there's a lot of pressure.
I just mean you thought there was nobody else.
Cannonier.
Yeah, because he's fighting Anderson Silva, but a lot of people have fought Anderson Silva, and guess what? They beat him up. He doesn't want to fight 5 rounds anymore, which is why he's declined to fight 5 rounds against Izzy, which is why he declined to fight 5 rounds against Daniel Cormier. He knows his role.
He gets paid the same amount regardless if he fights 3 or 5. Why would he fight an extra 2?
But he knows he can't take the damage anymore. He goes out there, he clowns around, he lands a couple combinations, and everybody cheers. People say, oh, that fight with Izzy was competitive, but it wasn't. It was just, you were impressed that he did better than you thought he would. My brain tells me he's getting knocked out in the first round. My gut tells me he's actually a bad matchup for Cannonier. He could pull this one out in Brazil. But ultimately, he's not going to fight any of those top guys. He's not going to fight Hermanson. He's not going to fight Jacare because he knows him on a personal level. He's not going to fight those top guys. Okay. But
so we have nobody from the fight so far, and you're looking at the middleweight rankings.
No, I'm saying, could he have not fought Uriah Hall in a fight that people all want to see collectively?
I'd be in on that.
Could he have not fought Christoph Jotko in a fight that people know Jotko and it would build
What's
it
the
up?
difference between Jotko and Cannonier, really, in terms of like name brand value? Come on.
Could he have not fought in Luke Rockhold at 185 pounds or 205
he's
pounds?
at 205 now.
Well, he can still make 185, and Anderson would have gladly gone up to 205 and fought
at
him
185.
And then the guys below that, they're low level names.
Exactly.
But Cannonier's in the
Cannonier was
same.
the odd man out. There's
He's
like,
in
here
the
you go.
Same position, man.
Head over to Brazil, pal. All right, so you like Cannonier, I like Anderson Silva. You may have talked me off of making a bet, though. We'll see what happens.
You worried about it now or what?
I mean, if you're, I respect your opinion. So if I was kind of like teetering on the line, maybe I just stay away altogether.
Well, like you said, you plan on waiting on it and seeing if the line changes. And if you're going to get some great price on Anderson Silva,
I think if you're going to act on him, you'd probably want to act now. Because as we get closer, once like public money starts coming in, like,
you're right.
And there people are going to see Anderson Silva is an underdog against somebody I've never heard of before. Bet Anderson Silva, and just the line's going to move adequately. Based off of that. All right, we spent way too much time on these first two fights. Let's move on. We've got Jose Aldo taking on Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Aldo is 8,400 and minus 130 favorite. Alexander Volkanovski is 7,800 and plus 110. Volkanovski passed all tests for me. All my questions were basically answered when he took on Chad Mendes. Now I realize Chad Mendes maybe not the exact same guy that he was before. Obviously coming off of a drug test, and I guess he got back in the win column, but then he took on Volkanovski. And Mendes landed big on Volkanovski. He dropped him once, but it's like that chin held up. And that was a kind of a question. It's like, well, if he takes on somebody with a bit of power, and we've seen Chad Mendes can knock you the fuck out. If he can take that and just keep coming forward right in your face, just pounding away, I don't see why you can't do it to Anderson here. On DraftKings, 7,800 for a guy who averages 112 points per fight. Volkanovski was supposed to be like a best man in a wedding or something like that, and they booked him on this card. So his best friend rescheduled his wedding so that Volkanovski could fight on this card.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like him and his so I don't know, man. I'm sold on Volkanovski. Obviously, it's Aldo in Brazil. We've seen him being able to deal with pressure style before. The Edgar fight comes to mind, where we saw a completely brand new Jose Aldo who became more of a counter striker in that fight. That's what he's going to do against Volkanovski. But Volkanovski is just a pit bull, man. And he's going to be moving forward right into that pocket. I learned that he can take the damage when he gets hit there. I just think he's going to overwhelm Jose Aldo, and I probably see like maybe a late second, early third round finish for Alexander the Great in Brazil, making everyone sad.
Yeah, well, this one's a tough spot for me because I'm on board on the Volkanovski train for sure. Never bet against this guy and didn't plan on doing it anytime soon. All on board. However, this could be a big trap, man. Maybe I'm too much of a fan. Maybe I got to take a step back and look at it this way. Volkanovski looked great against Chad Mendes. Yeah, you're right. Chad Mendes served a long-ass time on the sidelines. Chad Mendes was kicking his ass. And then Chad Mendes tired out, which was a Chad Mendes common trait, is that he gasses out. Hopefully he puts you down. If not known for his cardio. Against Jose Aldo, maybe that's not going to play out. If he's getting his ass kicked like that in the first round, is Jose Aldo just going to tire out all of a sudden? I don't know. Why I say it's a trap is that I look at last week in Donald Cerrone. Myself personally, I'm looking at Donald Cerrone as a fighter who's done it all. He's in his mid-30s. He's at the back nine. Yeah, he can beat the up-and-comers, like I said. Oh, he could beat the Mike Perrys and the Alex Hernandez. He can't beat a real contender like Al Iaquinta. And he goes out there, this guy's on a 3-fight winning streak now, and he looks career best, Paul. The skills didn't regress. Here's a guy that's fought at the top of the mountain, and he can still be there. He can still be at that point. So we make the question at the beginning of the show, who's the 40-year-old guy that's going to win, right? And we name a bunch of 40-year-old guys in the card. And a lot of them have a legitimate chance at winning. Then we talk about who are the 35 plus guys. And we name another 4 guys in the card that are 35 plus. And a lot of them have a legitimate chance of winning. Jose Aldo, shockingly enough, 32 years old. So this guy's technically still in the prime of his career. And he had a couple setbacks. He maybe got caught, and maybe it was a lucky punch, maybe it wasn't. And then he comes back and the Holloway fights, he's looking shop-worn. But there's no denying against Jeremy Stevens and Renato Moicano, this guy looks back. He looks back in a way that Donald Cerrone looked back. And I fucked up last weekend by not giving Donald Cerrone his due. And to bet a guy in Volkanovski that his last win over Chad Mendes, a guy that Aldo has already beaten twice, and then prior to that, Darren Elkins and Jeremy Kennedy, all tough guys. But it's not even the same league as a Jose Aldo. So if he goes out there and Chad Mendes was touching him up, if he's getting touched up like that from one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest ever, it could be a different ball game. So I'm taking Volkanovski, but I get fucked on this one. This is the type of spot where I go too heavy on a guy that I'm sold on. And it's Jose Aldo in Brazil. And he's been looking good.
He's just a better DraftKings play, I think. 7,800. This guy, if he
he's
fights his fight, he can score monstrous.
Yeah. But it just might be a pass. But you're right. Yeah. You probably want one of these two guys on your team. And hey, the $600
I think
savings on
Volkanovski's a way better play than
he's 7,800 exactly. Traditionally, he can score 100 plus points. He has a good shot of winning this fight. I do believe. But again, like I would go all in on him, or I would go heavy on him, and you realize Sunday morning when you wake up, like, man, why do I go against some of the greats? Sometimes they're shot. Aldo doesn't look shot right now. Again, in a similar fashion as Cerrone. So I'm interested in seeing what plays out.
We have Thiago Alves taking on Laureano Staropoli. Not Italian. Argentinian kid. 8,200 for Alves. They're both. It's minus 110 across the board. Staropoli is 8,000. We were right here on this very, not this desk, our previous desk, in this exact same studio, when Laureano Staropoli was taking on Hector Aldana. Everybody on DraftKings was playing Hector Aldana. Everyone had a bet on Hector Aldana, and we're just like, how the fuck are people betting Hector Aldana? This doesn't make any sense. We went with Staropoli, more based on the fact that we thought that both of these guys are kind of bums.
Yeah.
But, like, take the bum that's hardly going to be owned. And you know, Staropoli was, like, on, like, watching tape and stuff. It's just like, I don't see how Hector Aldana is that much better than him. Now we have Thiago Alves, who, you know, he's had obviously a bad stretch of fights, and maybe this guy's done, but we bring him over to Brazil. We have an Argentinian fighter come in. They're giving me a straight pick 'em line. The only bet I made this week, God help me, is on Thiago Alves. Because I worry that the line goes the other way. I like Alves here. I just think he's better everywhere. He's a seasoned veteran. Like, Laureano Staropoli was completely fine for us to be playing when he was taking on Hector fucking Aldana. But this is a totally different thing. Sometimes the fade change just happen. Everyone's like, let's fade this guy because he sucks. Just like, well, they're giving him a suitable opponent for him to get a win here in his home country. I know that he's about as American as acai berry at this point. Like, you know, he lives in... Or he's American as apple pie. I don't know why I said it that way. He's as American as apple pie at this point. Like, he lives in Florida. He trains at ATT. Like, he's pretty much American at this point, living away from Brazil. But I don't know, man. I think the fade train is way too high. People are just fading Alves for the sake of fading him, and I think this is a winnable fight. So I'm in on Alves. Yeah, no, I agree. With Staropoli, you famously proclaimed Hector Aldana was the worst fighter in the division. So it didn't matter who he was fighting. He was destined to lose on the basis that whoever he'd be fighting would not be as bad as him. And in this case, he didn't look bad against Hector Aldana, but it was great. He landed nearly 100 significant strikes, but he could not finish Hector Aldana, and he did not look great. No. With Thiago Alves, it's like they haven't really done him a whole lot of favors in recent years. I feel like this is a guy that, at his best, was one of the greats from a different era. But his wins over Koscheck and his wins over Matt Hughes and making it to a title fight with Georges St. Pierre, like, this guy was a tremendous talent. And then, call it what you want to call it, age, call it what you want to call it, the rest of the division got more skilled. Maybe the drug testing policy, I don't know, bad weight cuts.
It's just he's not that same guy anymore. But whereas people are thinking he's shot and he's done, I feel like he's almost like an Andre Arlovsky. Against murderous power punchers and up and coming, like the guys that are going to be something, he can't take that damage anymore. Against a different level of competition, he can. And he's actually surprised me his last couple fights, even though he's on a terrible run here. So Curtis Millender smokes him out of the water, but you don't want to be standing with Curtis Millender, and he made a bad mistake there. He obviously probably didn't even really know who Curtis Millender was at the time. I think it was Millender's debut. But that's a bad fight for him. The fight with Kunchenko, though, he's brought in there to lose to Kunchenko, who is on paper a murderous fucking power puncher, but a guy that's not exceptional. Thiago Alves lost, but he showed he's not completely shot. Like the Patrick Cote fight, there's still something there. And then in that last fight with Max Griffin, I thought he lost for sure. He got a judge's decision handed to him, but again, he didn't look bad, and Max Griffin's not all that bad. So against Staropoli, it's like he's not even fighting a mid-range guy anymore. He's fighting a tough Latin American guy who lost to Aldana. They sat around for a year thinking, what are we even going to do with this guy? And then it's, okay, you know what? This card's weak, and we're trying to sell pay-per-views. Let's put Alves, who's used to be a big name, fought for the title at UFC 100. Let's put him in there in a winnable fight. This is the winnable fight. So, yeah, I got Alves as well. Do I love it? Nah. And could I see it go in the distance? Absolutely. But, yeah.
If it goes distance and we're in Brazil,
yeah,
all the extra power to Thiago Alves.
And $8,200 not a bad price if that's the case. So, I feel you on Thiago Alves.
Diego Ferreira takes on Francisco Masaranduba. TRINALDO. 9,000 and minus 155 favorite for Ferreira. 7,200 and plus 135. Who you got?
It's a tough one. I mean, both guys, I'm going to have to give the grappling advantage to Ferreira, but I don't know if he's even going to be able to get the fight to the ground.
I don't think he has the wrestling.
That's the thing. And to take down Masaranduba is quite the task because he's unbelievably strong. So, okay, so now we got a striking match. Ferreira, I like his striking style. The thing is, he takes damage. And he particularly takes damage against like plodding guys that sit in the pocket and lunge big punches. In the Kyle Nelson fight, I didn't think he was all that hurt, but he definitely got touched up. We've seen in other fights, the Poirier fight so long ago, but you know what I mean. He can get into a gunfight, he can get touched up. Against Masaranduba, a guy that has put a lot of work into his striking over the year.
He's Brazilian kickboxing
yeah, exactly. He
was originally a striker. I think he's put a lot of work into his grappling game, to be honest.
Well, he's a power black belt, right? Yeah. These guys are incredibly tough to take down. If you don't take them down, you bail out on it, and they end up on top, incredibly hard to sweep. And if they're on their back, they're kind of fucked. But they are very hard to pass their guard. They'll just kill out the clock and get back up at some point. The gas tank has always been a worry. But this guy, as he gets older, doesn't seem like it's leaving him. His last fight against Evan Dunham, yeah, you can make any argument that Dunham's another guy with 1 foot out the door. But if he's fighting that level of guy, he looks good. The fight with James Vick, I thought he looked super lethargic. But against a guy that's that tall and that has that kind of style, it's just a bad stylistical matchup. So now we got Ferreira. Ferreira's unable to take him down. Kind of get the impression he's probably going to be unable to take him down. Then we got a striking battle. We got a striking battle between one guy that wears damage incredibly well versus one guy that doesn't. One guy that's going to sit there and just wing these big shots versus one guy that maybe won't. And maybe it plays out like a Yancy Medeiros situation where he's up and he gets clipped by something. But you see in those situations, if he just reverts to brawl mode, he can still get the win. So I want to pass on this because I got a bad feeling that TRINALDO might be half shot.
He's 40 years old.
He's $7,200.
Exactly.
So the tempt is just so it's there for sure.
7,200.
It's there for sure.
If Ferreira can't get the takedown, this just turns into a striking affair. Yeah.
Then why wouldn't you like him?
I favor TRINALDO.
Exactly.
Plus 135 isn't the best. But yeah, on DraftKings, the 7,200, like
he's got a high upside.
Got a high upside. All we have to worry about is don't get taken down because, yeah, CDF does have the advantage if they get into real grappling sequences. But for TRINALDO, historically, is just, he's so strong. If you do take him down, like, good luck holding him down. Yeah, I like TRINALDO in this spot myself as well. We have Ryan Spann taking on Rogerio Nogueira. Cody, look over at that screen. Jesus Christ. What happened? Like, it looks like he fell in a bottle of spray tan.
And it looks like he's doing that thing that Derek Brunson does when he rushes in with punches.
Yeah, for those listening, we're making fun of
Rogerio
Nogueira's picture. It's 8,800 for SPANN. He's minus 145 favorite. 7,400 for Nogueira. Plus 125. Who you got?
You probably shouldn't take my advice on this one, but I'm saying fuck it, and I'm taking Nogueira. I don't know what it was about that last fight over Sam Alvey, but it was like, it's like this guy's got good hands. He's always had good hands. He's a former Pan American bronze medalist in boxing. Put that aside for his grappling's good. I just don't. I think he's way too slow, and his knees might be shot. That like I don't know that his wrestling's gonna be used at this point. But he can outbox guys. He can outbox guys and he can give them trouble. And for whatever reason, the thing with Ryan Spann is that he doesn't have a particularly good gas tank. So what I see happening is this young, talented, better athlete, way faster.
Wins the first 3 minutes.
He's going to touch him up and he's going to hurt.
The whole crowd, not used to like this type of atmosphere. We saw the last time that Nogueira was in this spot. It was against Patrick Cummings, and everyone's like, well, Nogueira's so shot, like Cummings will knock him out. And it's just
Cummings is way faster and is a better athlete, but it's
he's going to wrestle and he's going to take him down. It's
this guy's got hands.
In that moment, and they're, both kind of chinny and both kind of, well, Cummins, if he's wrestling, he doesn't really gas out. But if you get him into a wild striking affair, he gets real tired real fast.
Yeah, that's the thing with Nogueira is that he didn't look all that bad, and then he gets himself a positive USADA test, takes 2 years off, comes back. Now we're thinking, whoa, is he ever going to be shot? But I'll tell you something. This is my greasy theory of the week. The 2 years off is probably the best thing that ever happened to him. I know he lost 2 very valuable years in terms of life, but that guy been fighting his entire life. He's probably got so much wear and tear that the 2 years off helps refreshen the body. So I mentioned I was in Abu Dhabi last week and I ran into Minotauro Nogueira. Big Nog Rodrigo. He was in fucking awesome shape, Paul. Awesome shape. Now, do I think he could come back and fight at a high level in MMA? No. He's right lame when he walks. But you have to remember, this is a man who was hit by a motherfucking bus when he was a kid. So, like, he's way worse off than his brother. His brother is also in good shape. And the skill really hasn't left him all that much. And that 2 years may have helped him to a certain extent. So I've been likening a lot of these fights to other fights and fighters to other fighters and trying to draw comparisons. And the comparison I draw from this one is Ion Cutelaba versus Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira, he's an old dog too. And you know what? He's still got some skill, but he's way slower than these younger guys. And there's a question, can he take the damage anymore? Cutelaba's all over him the first 5 minutes, the first 7 minutes. But eventually he starts getting touched up and eventually his game plan falls to shit. Spann's a guy that has, again, traditionally shown in the past that he's not above tiring out. So my worry is that I am fully admitting that Nogueira is probably going to lose the first round and a half, and maybe he gets knocked out in the first 7 minutes. So if you roster him on DraftKings, he's got high upside, but he's got low downside as well. Like he might not score you. His
downside is 0 points.
He could not score you anything. So you have to realize that it's going to be a big risk. But I look at the $7,400 and I think a second round TKO out of this guy would be tasty. So it could definitely be a bias that I have a lot of respect for this guy or that I interviewed his brother, whatever the case may be. You know, he's an OG of the game and I'm half tunnel blind on it, but it's a good price and I feel like I've
been thinking the same thing all week, to be perfectly honest. Oof. But now when I really start to look at it, after we did this, the challenge about the 40-year-old people, so far, I have picked 3 40-year-old guys to get wins. So that doesn't ever end well.
Fair, but can I counter that argument with if there was any
card, they're all underdogs.
If there was any any country that you would be safe with having just old veterans get the win over, this is where it would be. They have done this traditionally in the past this fight's not going to sell great, but let's put the aging Brazilian veterans in Brazil with winnable fights. The Brazilians crush on these cards. Mm-hmm. We've seen cards where not a single foreigner has won. You know what I don't understand? They come to Canada and they fucked us on the matchmaking.
No, we said that last week. It's just like, what is Brad Katona doing fighting... Like Brad
there was a lot of fights
won
like
the
that.
Ultimate Fighter. Yeah. It's just like you could try to market the guy, and they gave him Marab. It's just like that's just kryptonite for an SBG trained fighter. Go in there against some, Sarah Longo wrestling maniac from Georgia. Like, come on, just bad matchmaking altogether. You just knew it was going to be awful for for Canada.
But in
It was
this
good.
case,
It was good for
in this
for
case,
me. I bet
I'd be super worried too taking a bunch of 4-year-old, but this isn't so.
one in Rome. All right, we got Thiago Moses taking on Kurt Holobaugh, 8,500 Moses. 7,700 Holobaugh, minus 130 and plus 110 respectively. I got nothing on this. What you got?
I like Kurt Holobaugh. Always have. Like his style, like him as a person. He just can't win at this level. Whatever it is. It's not that he's fighting bad in the UFC. It's just he can't get the W over. You look at his Well, I mean, he debuted a long time ago for the UFC. Let's put that aside. Comeback to the UFC after winning the Titan featherweight and lightweight title. Comes back to the UFC, takes on Raoni Barcelos. I thought he was fighting a good fight, but he was getting touched up. He was down 2 rounds, I thought. Some people thought 1-1. I thought he was down 2 rounds. Knocked out in the 3rd round. Thing is that this guy had not been knocked out. Like, he was known for his chin, his durability. Gets knocked out. No big deal. Gets Shane Burgos. That's a tough fight to come back to. Drops Burgos. Hurts him. And then gets submitted. This guy hadn't been submitted for a long-ass time. So now you run into the problem that he just been knocked out. He just been submitted. It's a 2-fight losing streak. He's already 0-3 in the UFC between 2 collective stints. Well, what's he got? You know, his Dana White Contender Series fight's actually a no contest because he got caught using an IV afterwards. It's just been so up and down. I like his style. I like his ruggedness. I like that he's always moving forward. And that's going to pose a lot of problems for Moises because Moises is a guy that doesn't really counterpunch very good. He's an aggressive fighter. When he's coming forward, he can strike. When he's on top in the grappling exchanges or trying to take you down, he's aggressive, but backpedaling against pressure fighters, not a good look for him. Again, it's more of a gut feeling that I feel like Holobaugh's got the tools to win, but he'll be moving forward, and I just think he's going to come up on the shorter end of the strikes. He's just going to be touched up, and for whatever reason, you know, Moises is a potent finisher. If the fight hits the ground, like Thiago Moises is grappling, Shane Burgos is grappling. Thiago Moises hit one of the slickest helicopter arm bars back in his RFA days. The guy's a good grappler. Maybe he can submit Kurt Holobaugh. Maybe he can catch Kurt Holobaugh. But he's got path to victory there. Versus I'm worried about him just getting on his back pedal the whole time, getting pushed backwards. So the last point that I want to make on it, just the last worry, just so I make sure I'm getting this properly, is if you look at Kurt Holobaugh, for example, his last 2 fights, Raoni Barcelos and Shane Burgos, both at 145 pounds. So yes, he has that tenacity. Yes, he has that durability. And yes, he has that forward pressure game at 145 pounds, where he's a big fucking dude. Now he's up 155 pounds, whereas Thiago Moises got out-grappled by Beneil Dariush. But Beneil Dariush is a big dude at 55. Holobaugh losing that size, which was what I was giving him as his path to victory, him losing that or not being able to use it in the same ways, that's enough for me to take Thiago Moises. He's only 130 on the money line, but the $8,500, yes, I do believe he could submit him or could knock him out, but I feel like that's a tad high of a price tag, so I would avoid that.
It's kind of an avoid on my list too. We got Irene Aldana taking on Betch Correia. Irene Aldana is 9,200 and minus 290 favorite. Correia is 7,000 plus 245. Not gonna lie, I don't feel like parlaying Aldana feels remotely safe in this situation. I see too many holes in the game. Obviously, she's the better distance striker. She's gonna be able to box from range. That's her bread and butter. She's long-limbed, and Betch is pretty rudimentary on the feet. We haven't seen her in a while either. But Betch likes to just she's pretty strong. She's compact. She likes to just hold people up against the fence. And we've seen her win decisions in Brazil just by doing that strategy altogether. And I could see her employing it. I don't want to touch the plus 245 either, because just now I'm hoping that she holds up against the fence. She doesn't have much of a wrestling. She's not a great fighter all around, but I think it is a dog or pass type of situation. I'm just electing to pass altogether. I don't want any part of Aldana on DraftKings at 9,200. It would have to be Correia just completely chasing constantly and just getting lit up with volume is what I would imagine. I guess she did get knocked out by Rousey, so everything's
on the table.
Everything's
Paul.
on the table, but this is an easy fight for me to just pass altogether. What about you?
Yeah, no, I can completely understand the reasoning there. When I look at the pricing, especially, I don't think anybody wants to be in the business of rostering Betch Correia. The price is a very tempting price, but taking somebody who's been off for 2 full years, who was not looking good prior to taking that time off, and is now 35 years old. Like, that's just, it's a lot. Yeah, she's fighting at home. Yeah, maybe it hasn't taken a whole lot away from her, but she was like a brawling type striker, make it a dirty fight, you know, not winning all these exchanges, but coming forward and being rugged. And that's kind of where she made her mark. Against fighters who are slicker than her, that are going to be able to outpoint her, especially if she's not very tall for the division. Taller strikers, she's going to have a problem. People thought she'd be more competitive against Holly Holm, and she'd give an okay account for herself, really. It seemed like Holly Holm was kind of fucking around early. But as soon as she put that boot lopside her head, it was like, oh, man. Then you take 2 years off. Now you're 35. I don't know what you've been doing since then. Have you been striking or you been worried about it? Have you solely focused on your wrestling game? You're going to come take down Aldana? That'd be a problem. But I don't want to take the chance on it. I think Aldana pieces her up. I think Aldana gets a decision. But Aldana for the 9,200 on DraftKings, not interested. The 2,900, the minus 290, it seems like, yeah, that's a reasonable price. However, Aldana's shit in my apple pie before, and I'm not really going back to that well.
Leslie Smith once things got heated.
Right, and the thing with Bethe Correia is that she can make it an ugly fight. She can come forward. She can make it a scrap.
Hold it up against the cage, and we're in Brazil.
Hold it up against the cage. Aldana, her last time out against Lucy Podolova, scraped up a split decision. Now this thing's in Brazil. Who do you think's gonna get that split decision?
Exactly.
And with Bethe Correia, remember her versus Marion Renault. It's just like time to turn it on. Scores a 10-8 round. It's like that's a fight that you see her. She's not an elite level talent. Let's be honest. But you do sometimes see. Here's a girl trained by the Pitbull brothers, Patricio and Patricio, who's got the type of style to pull one over people who don't pull the trigger. I think Aldana will pull the trigger. I think she's just going to outpoint her. But again, this fight seems pass, or it could be a trap. But 2 years off Correia, 35, I'm not touching that.
No. We have Clay Guida taking on the ghost of BJ Penn. Clay Guida, 9,500, minus 600 favorite. BJ Penn, 6,700, plus 450. I mean, BJ Penn hasn't won a fight since 2010, so I don't see how you could, in any good conscience, roster him, play him. That MMA betting tips or whatever, like the third-party tracking site that people use. Not a single soul has actually bet BJ Penn and documented it as of the time of this recording.
Right.
Maybe somebody goes out there and does it. I mean, Clay Guida's minus 600. You can probably add him to parlays, but you're adding a plus 600 or a minus 600. How much does that really add? I don't think Clay's stupid enough to try to like wrestle, take him down.
Of course he is.
Yeah, maybe.
What are you talking about?
That is the risk that you
anybody
run.
That's
the only way BJ probably wins.
Is he shoots his ass right into a guillotine choke.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a possibility, by the way.
That's what you're basically avoiding. But if I don't think at 90. So like, let's just throw the 600 out. Like maybe if you want to, if you're playing a full card parlay minus 600, that's great. But 9,500. Okay, so we have Clay Guida in a fight where he probably should be afraid of utilizing wrestling because he puts himself in a position where he can lose the fight. Now, this is Clay Guida. This is a guy who goes rock'em sock'em robots with Diego Sanchez, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing against Diego Sanchez. So I'm not saying that he has the best fight IQ, but he has looked like he turned a bit of a corner. Not obviously in his last fight, but he was leading up to that last fight. Since he went to Team Alpha Male, he was kind of adding some wrinkles to his game. He was beating Brian Ortega up until he got finished. All he had to do is cruise out that round 3. He wins a decision against Brian Ortega. So yes, the fight IQ probably scratches out you adding Clay Guida whatsoever. But it's really hard. Like you can't have any faith in BJ Penn at this point either. So I just worry 95 is a lot of points for Clay Guida to score up top there. So I think it's hard to add him to it. But he could go out. BJ Penn is so done that Clay Guida could knock him out. All of this bullshit nonsense, I guess, that I'm spewing out right now is it's an easy pass, this fight altogether. It's Guida or bust, but how can you tell anybody to have any faith in BJ Penn at this point?
No, I'll do it right now. But yeah, he's a 6-1 underdog for a reason. I mean, he's on a terrible streak. As you mentioned, hasn't won in 9 years. And then on top of that, he's got like a lot of like domestic stuff going on the side. Like you just don't know where this guy's at. Training's always been a problem. Is he motivated? Is he in good shape? Does he have the cardio to go? Is the weight cut going to be any good? It's just always a revolving door of questions with one BJ Penn. So could you ever bet this guy in confidence? No, you couldn't. But just to give him a little bit anyways. To me, I know this is going to sound crazy. This is just my hot take. To me, this is the most winnable fight that BJ Penn has had in that last string. And I know this sounds crazy because Clay Guida is not a wash by no means and is probably a bad stylistical matchup for him. But Clay Guida finds a way to beat himself, man. He puts himself in bad fucking spots. So the Thiago Tavares fight, the fight starts, he shoots right into a double leg, right into a guillotine choke, and Thiago Tavares catches him like nothing. All right. The Brian Ortega fight, yeah, maybe he's up 2 rounds. Definitely wins the first. Second's pretty close. But he's up 2 rounds. So, like, why would you dip your head right into, I don't know. And that's Ortega before he even really refines the striking. Then he picks up a win over Eric Koch, but, you know, this is Eric Koch, a kickboxer who just lied on his back the whole time, right? And then he picks up a win over Joe Lozon, a guy that he's also kind of shot past his prime. Finishes Joe Lozon. Okay. Then the Charles Oliveira fight, he stuck his fucking head right back into a guillotine chokehold. So he's got a tendency to just, the fight might be going his way and he finds a way to fuck it up. And the thing with BJ is he's looked so bad over the last couple of years, but when they booked the Nick Diaz fight, he's got no chance in hell, and he loses, of course. When he fights Rory, what? When he fights Frankie the 3rd time, are you kidding me? When he fight Yair Rodriguez, it's like no shot. Now, the Dennis Seaver fight, people said that was a good fight, but it wasn't because BJ got into a stand-up battle with a guy who's a decent kickboxer. He's a better kickboxer than BJ Penn is a straight boxer, and he loses that fight. With Ryan Hall, Ryan Hall can't strike, but Ryan Hall was going to do the same thing he did against Gray Maynard. He was going to pull an Elias. Kick the fuck out of there. Kick the fuck out of there. You get too close, pull guard. I didn't think he was going to submit BJ Penn, but I thought he'd just be able to outpoint him. But he loses that one. But now he's got a guy in Clay Guida who's not a great striker. BJ Penn could theoretically outstrike this guy. And his wrestling is his go-to, and his unbelievable cardio is the best thing he's ever had. But his wrestling and his cardio, is he going to take down BJ Penn to his ground and pound him? Maybe. You were there for that last Frankie fight.
It was sad.
Fucking abysmal.
It's really sad.
If we get that BJ Penn, and that's probably the exact BJ Penn that we're going to get, Clay might finish this guy. Clay might just run rickshaw on him. Takedowns, ground and pound, transitions, and the 95 probably pays off. But
It could be like
if you watch BJ versus Ryan Hall, and Ryan Hall can't strike for shit, prior to Ryan Hall getting that leg lock, didn't look that bad. So I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. But the price is not great on Clay, so I'm thinking pass. He could fucking kill him. Maybe he will. But I got a soft spot for the old veterans on the card, so I think BJ either shows us a little bit more than he has in the past, or this is truthfully the done deal with the bow on top. Yeah, but this is a sport that's all about styles, and Clay's been off for a year plus as well, right? So it's not as like he's going to be in great shape, and if he comes in with a little bit of layoff and shoots right into a fucking guillotine choke, are you going to be surprised? No. But the people with the $6,700 BJ Penn rostered up.
Win all
anyways,
the monies.
Again, that's the ultra definition of a punt on a team you don't expect to win. But if the price is right.
Well, we have a promotional newcomer, Luana Carolina. She is 8,900 and a minus 165 favorite. She is taking on everyone's favorite fighter, Priscilla Ketchabeating, who is 7,300 plus 145. Watched a little bit of tape on Luana Carolina. She has a 4-inch reach advantage, Muay Thai fighter. Decent at maintaining range. Not the best against takedown artists, but are we going to trust Ketchabeating to do anything but just flail overhand rights and wild strikes and stuff? One thing that Ketchabeating's good at is she's incredibly durable. But I think Luana Carolina outpoints very convincingly from distance. I think she may be better than Meatball, to be perfectly honest.
Wow, that's way different style altogether. But yeah.
I think she may be a better athlete, better striker, a better overall fighter than Meatball McCann. I think there's still value on Luana Carolina. Like I didn't take anything special from Cachoeira last time out. I don't think I'm actually surprised that and she's the one who's actually on short notice coming in and filling this spot. Has anybody ever gotten 3 fights and been this bad in the UFC? I don't think so.
Well, technically speaking, that last fight with Molly McCann, if some doctor might look at that eye and be like, whoa, no way. Like, yeah, she got beat up, but she had a good 3rd round and she inflicted some damage. And she's a brawler, and that's the problem, right? She's just a very rudimentary brawler. Will she ever be able to beat a Valentina Shevchenko? No. And Molly McCann's kind of half polished. She's a former Cage Warriors champion. But against real green, open, low-level talent, that wild brawling style could be effective. Many in ways that Betch Correia once was effective. But yeah, I'm not seeing it. I mean, I look at Luan Carolina, and yeah, you're right, dude. She's super tall. She's super tall, Muay Thai stylist. Her lone professional loss is in her debut, split decision, against a talented fighter, someone who had a lot of experience, right? So I don't really take anything away from that. She's competed in Muay Thai pretty extensively. Something like a 2-time Brazilian champion. I don't know if that's high end. However, when you watch that one fight, that Dana White's Contender Series fight from episode 3 Brazil.
Yeah, her opponent kept getting, like it was a shorter, kind of stubbier type of opponent. She kept getting underhooks on her. She was able to, she had a decent get-up game. Like we saw the holes. I don't think Luana Carolina is anything special after this fight. She doesn't go on and become like a world champion or anything the way I see it. But she's got enough of the goods, in my opinion, to get past catch a beating. Yeah,
well, that's like I said, when I watched the Lone Contender Series fight, because I'm not going to pretend like I knew who this girl was prior to that or really prior to them putting her on this card. Like I didn't realize she got a contract out of it. Yeah, competent striker. You said she maintains range. Well, I didn't think so. I thought for someone who's that tall that she could have probably moved a little bit more and use some angles or use some footwork. But what I did like is that whenever you're coming in, she's bombing you with kicks. She's bombing you with knees. She was just more active. And yeah, with Cachoeira, she's just a brawler. So she'll stand at distance. She'll allow herself to wait for that
4 inches of reach advantage.
Right. Here. And as you're waiting to land that one big overhand right, you get kicked 2, 3, 4 times. And you fall behind on the scorecard. Not enough. You got to realize that Molly McCann, the meatball, is like 5'4". So now you go from that to taking on this way different style. Yeah. You're short notice. How would you prepare for it? I don't know. But
I don't like the 8,900.
I was going to say, I don't mind the money line, despite we've got a 4-1 girl making her debut and it's probably a stay away. I don't mind the minus 165. Don't. But the 8,900 is
too much. You would need a complete barn burner brawl, crazy striking affair where she's just throwing, which is possible with the way that Cachoeira just kind of runs forward and bombs. Maybe she lands enough strikes to make it pay off, but like that's a tough way. Yeah. We always like going for the grapplers where it's just like, well, you get 4 takedowns. There's 20 points. Boom. Like there's your floor. You get the decision when there's another 30 points. Right? There's a 50-point floor if you think that a wrestler is going to win. It's like with significant strikes, it's a total different ball game altogether.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm not going to play anybody who's nearly $9,000 unless I think they're going to get the finish. And in this case,
and their game, a lot of their game could be
she can take a beating. She can take it.
Having the reach, throwing out the jab, which is not going to score significant strikes. That's going to be a big part of her game. So,
but even if it does, even if they say, okay, she landed some stiff jabs, we're going to count them as a significant strike.
What do they score them as?
But I'm saying is that if she was to win this fight and score 100 significant strikes, that would be great. But she's going to get 50 points off of that and a decision win. She's $8,900. She needs a finish or she needs to implement grappling. And because she's not going to do that, she won't score up. You're right. If a fighter was to land a 3-punch combination standing, whoa, nice 3-piece, and they all landed flush, that's a hell of a combination. That's your 3 strikes. If you take the person down, move to side control, and smash them 3 times, the whole sequence can take exact same amount of time and score 4 or 5 times more.
8 points,
of course.
So it sounds like we're on the same page there. We move on. We got Warley Alves taking out Sergio Moraes. 8,600. Alves minus 145 favorite. Moraes is 7,600 plus 125. How you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Is it crazy to think that Sergio Moraes is a jiu-jitsu specialist, is going to sit here for 15 minutes and outstrike Warley Alves? Like, total possibility, but I got to go Warley Alves. I shouldn't be even saying stuff like this anymore, so I'm going to make my absolute best to stop, but Warley Alves looks like he's in fucking good shape, man, and you see some of the guys in his team who also look in really good shape. He has been such a bust. Like, talk about a guy that is not good. Comes in with a kickboxing base. You'd never see it anymore. His power, not even really all that good. Doesn't set anything up. Too far one and done. He's got some aggression. Terrible gas tank. His wrestling's okay. His jits is okay. But that's not going to work against Sergio Moraes. I don't think he's going to take him down. I don't think if he does take him down, it's going to go well for him. So we've got a kickboxing match. And Moraes has got a willingness to just throw sloppy shit, overhand rights, big jab. He's a long, rangy guy. And maybe he can outpoint him. Both of these guys have been in fights where it's just a slop fest, and they've gotten decisions, and decisions have gone against them. And in Warlley Alves' case, he only really seems to look good if he smokes you out of there in a round or two. If the fight goes any longer than that, his game completely just falls apart. Doesn't have a great gassing. Again, with Sergio Moraes' case, you're not going to finish him. Like, what? Yeah, Usman caught him. But the guy's extremely durable. So if Alves doesn't finish him, and don't expect him to, then it's going to go later rounds. If it goes later rounds, then why can't Sergio Moraes outpoint him? But he just doesn't throw enough. Like, outside of the Tim Means fight, which the only reason I think he threw that many strikes is because he was forced to. You know, Means is kind of on his ass the whole time, and he does not have the wrestling to take most guys down. Couldn't take Means down. Not going to get a takedown here, I wouldn't think. So I think you're going to get a 3-round fight, 29-28, Warlley Alves. Probably, I'm going to say, scores in the neighborhood of 60 significant strikes. Yeah. No takedowns, no ground transitions. Not going to pay that 8,600. But the minus 145, it's worth a look.
I couldn't agree more on that fight, to be perfectly honest. It's a tough one to call.
Yeah, a very tough fight. And I like it. Like, it should be a fun fight. But I got to go. Alves is shockingly like 27 years old, 28 years old. Like, we think, whoa, this guy's busted prospect. But at least he's still prospect status. Like, he's young enough. He's got a couple decent wins. And going back to my greasy theory, he looks good when he fights in Brazil for a lot of the time. When he comes over to the States, he looks flat and lethargic. Yep. This fight's in Brazil. I think he could pull it out.
We have Raoni Barcelos taking on Carlos HUACHIN. Barcelos, most expensive guy on the card, 9,600 minus 700 favorite, 6,600 plus 500 for HUACHIN, who I haven't had a chance to look up yet.
Well, you mentioned you were able to squeeze in one bet so far this week, and I was thankfully able to squeeze in Raoni Barcelos at 440 because 700, like, it's been picked. It's like a corpse in the desert that just, like, everything's already had to go at it, and there's just no
the
meat
vultures,
left on
the vultures of
fucking came in, man. Yeah, it took them 2 days to figure it out. But they figured it out. It's minus 700. Like, there's not really much more meat you can pick off this. Yeah, $9,600. Yeah, why not? I mean, he could go out there and finish this. Carlos gets tough, but that's all he is, and like that's not enough. And he's short notice. He's 22.
And tough is a good thing when you really like the big favorite. Yeah, because maybe he lasts for 4 minutes and 40 seconds and gets finished in the last 20 seconds of round one, scoring all of the points.
Well, see, that's the other thing, too, is that Raoni Barcelos is actually, he's a 5-time Brazilian wrestling champion. Guy can fucking wrestle. He's a black belt in BJJ. Guy can grapple. His striking, man, I'm sold on it. I like it. I know he's got his limitations, and the fact that I think he's 34 years old, he's not going to, I don't think he's going to get any better. If this guy would have came into the UFC and was like 27, 28 with this skill set, would be my boy. Still is my boy. But I would love this. But I think we know what we're going to get. He was supposed to take on Said Nurmagomedov, and that would have been a better indication of how good really is he. And because he's almost in his mid-30s, he needs to be fighting guys like that. He does not need to be fighting upstarts from small Peruvian gyms like Carlos HUACHIN. Carlos HUACHIN, I think this guy greased a career together to get to the UFC. Let me just bring it up. So it all starts off, if you look, we'll start with his Tapology. I'll just go through this quick though. But his debut, right, comes in, April 2013, yet he had amateur fights after his pro debut. Strange, but all the same, sometimes they let you fight amateur even though you're pro if you have a losing record. Loses his first 2 fights, that's a draw, it doesn't matter. All of his fights, Paul, in Peru. Does not leave Peru, they're in Peru. Fights, bums. The one time he decides to leave Peru, he comes down to the States, takes on Imet Karaletti, who's like a Turkish kickboxer, but he's an American guy, and he loses. One and only time he left Peru. Okay, fair enough. Goes back to Peru, beats some guys. This fight with Bruno Pereira. So this fight was late 2017, okay? Bruno Pereira slaps on a fucking tight knee bar, right? This motherfucker taps. The ref stops the fight. As soon as the Brazilian Pereira lets go of said knee bar, the ref's like, okay, restart. And HUACHIN just rolls into him and just starts smashing him and ends up finishing him in the second round. Kind of bullshit. Then his very next fight takes on a guy named Rodrigo Vera. It was another Peruvian guy, okay? There's about 4 minutes of the fight online. It's 4 minutes of Carlos HUACHIN shit-kicking this guy. The video ends with a referee's decision with Carlos's hand in the air. But the fight's ruled a draw. So how is that possible? Because the fight was a draw. They cut out all the video of the other guy doing anything, pieced it together, and took a picture that made it look like Carlos won just to get him the win. They're protecting this guy's record. He has not fought fucking anybody. His very next fight, he fought a guy that was 4-7. And then he beat a short notice replacement, 10-8-1. And now he's going to jump in and take on the former RFA champ, a guy that's 2-0 in the UFC, a guy that in his debut knocks out Kurt HOLOBAUGH, cast iron chin. In his second fight, Chris Gutierrez would dance circles around this fucking guy. Submits him, looks good. Wrestling's on point. He's going to style on him. He's the play of the week, but yeah, minus 700. I'm not exactly a genius. 440 is not even a great price anyways, but for this. Now, the one thing is, Carlos is young. He's hungry. He's got nothing to lose, and he's got a lot of first round finishes because he's a southpaw, heavy straight left, got some power. But I'm sold on Roney. Like, I don't think he's chinny. I don't think he's shot. I don't think he's gonna get. Yeah, Kurt caught him, and he wore it really well. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think Barcelos rolls, obviously.
And finally, maybe you can do me a solid and look up to see if there is a line released on this one, because we have a new opponent
I don't think they do.
Talito Bernardo, who's 9,300 on DraftKings. She was supposed to take on Melissa Gatto, I believe is the name.
Gatto.
And she was like minus 525 favorite. And I'm like, that's egregious for somebody who had a pretty nip and tuck, pretty close, not close. She won very handily, but pretty relatively competitive against Sarah Cheesecake or whatever the hell her name is, Moraes, who everyone knows, who's been listening for long enough to this show, knows where I stand on that. I was considering, after watching a little bit of stuff on Gatto, just like, it's more of like a numbers play. It's just like, if they want to put it, right now I have it as not applicable. She's taking on Viviane Araujo, who honestly, I know it's 4 days notice and stuff, but I'm not seeing too much of a difference between Gatto and Araujo. So maybe they put out the same type of line. I would say it's worth a poke, because like Talito Bernardo, I don't understand how she could possibly be this big of a favorite, considering like, look at what she's done. She hasn't done anything. She won a decision where she got reversed multiple times. Like, grappling is her thing. She goes in, she grabs underhooks, she tries to trip you. Yeah, that is her game. That is what she's going to do every single time. Gatto, when I watched her, I was just like, this girl looks more athletic than Bernardo. This other girl, Viviane Araujo, doesn't look special either. Looks like she may be a better athlete as well. Does that mean that they're both kind of like Muay Thai specialists from the looks of it?
Who? These two?
Viviane Araujo.
Oh, right.
And the Gatto girl, I believe, as well.
Right.
No, Bernardo is trying to take you down, and she'll try to get to side control, or she'll just hang out in half guard. But like, her game's pretty predictable. She's not exactly a world-class grappler. I don't understand the numbers that they're hanging on them. If you want to take it's a dog or pass situation. It's a complete flyer, but I just think I'm playing the number here, depending on what they release this Araujo one at. If it's anything similar, I'm going to end up making a play, because like that one was getting out of hand. Like, it was like plus 450 I saw for Gatto against like anybody against Talita Bernardo.
Yeah.
At this level,
brother, you are speaking my language. I thought the same thing. I was like, why would you want to trust Toledo with that kind of price? No. But when I looked at the tape on Gatto, like, fuck, this was a bad matchup for her. She couldn't wrestle for shit. She had nothing off of her back, and she was good and she has no power. She had decent cardio. Bernardo's got terrible cardio. So I was thinking maybe Bernardo just gets tired at some point and then gets pieced up for rounds 2 and 3, or the end of 2 and 3 and loses. But like, it was a bad stylistical matchup. Now we've got Viviane Arroyo coming in on 4 days' notice, so it kind of scraps it all together. Bernardo, when I looked at it, Gato was a striker. She looked like she was a Muay Thai stylist. Again, I wasn't fond of her power. I didn't use a great striker.
I'm not fond of anything. I'm just saying that the number is just egregious.
We had an average striker with no takedown defense and no grappling, taking on a girl that has very lackluster stand up, but had some okay trips. She's very strong for the division. We'll give her that. She's physical and she's a BJJ black belt. Her husband is also a BJJ black belt. She's put some time in. Yeah,
if you make a plus 400 underdog play, like
I'm saying,
we are not saying that like it's gonna be all rainbows and kisses and stuff like that. Like, of course you're taking risks.
Right. So now with Viviane Arroyo, my worry becomes, I think Arroyo's a black belt too. And Arroyo is actually more talented than Gato, a lot more talented than Gato. So if Arroyo had a full camp and it was a better circumstance, yeah, man, I'm playing that dog status too. And in fact, still, dog or pass might be the play here. The one thing that's just like very crippling in my opinion is that Viviane Arroyo, is the Pancras 115-pound champion. So she's taking this fight on short notice versus just like a girl that's at the very least known for her physicality in a division at 135 pounds. Sarah Moras she's thick, she's a strong girl. And she's at least able to outmuscle her. So when I saw Arroyo's last fight against Imi Fujino, fuck man, here's a talented, past her prime, Japanese veteran, and you look good. And she's defended the title. Sorry, I think that was her last defense, but wins the title. But this is all at 115 pounds, Paul. Her entire career is at 115 pounds. So now on 4 days' notice, without cutting a single bit of weight, I'd be interested in seeing the weigh-in. What's she going to weigh in at? Maybe she comes in at it's one of those fights where they come in at 131, 132. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. 4 days notice, being that much smaller, taking on a girl who's very one-dimensional with her size, strength, and physicality.
Give me plus 500.
I don't know what the line's going to be, but I'm just saying because I try to make an effort of giving my pick on every fight. Yeah, I understand why she's the favorite, but my last point on this entire card. This is a card full of aging, older, savvy veterans, and a lot of people on this card are untrustworthy. Untrustworthy. So multiple apple pie shitters, multiple cases that could go wrong. And yeah, between Anderson Silva and Nogueira and BJ Penn, not all three of them are going to win. But one of them may win, and it'll come as a shock. But everybody on this card outside of this Carlos Huachin, I think has got a legitimate shot. There's no guaranteed lock. This is going to be a tough card, but an exciting one nonetheless. I don't think it's worth the pay-per-view price tag. I think they did a terrible job. Like as
me and Chad were talking about before you showed up. Just this is an ESPN card. Great ESPN card. Maybe the best ESPN card of the year. You're asking people to shell out $70 out of their own pocket.
But we see them do this all the time. It's a top-heavy card, right? The first 3 fights are awesome, and then the rest of it's stuff you'd expect to see on the prelims somewhere else. But again, if I'm not a mega fan with an interest in watching every single fight, I still want to always watch Raoni because I had the investment of him being the RFA guy and I had to work all the events. But BJ Penn versus Clay Guida, that's a fight fucking everybody can get behind. And it's buried on your prelims. Ryan Spann versus Nogueira? Like, what? You know it's going to be fun. And it's Nogueira. And it's on your prelims. But people want to watch Thiago Alves versus Laureano Staropoli? Like, get your fucking shit together, pal. Anyways, I'm not in the business of selling.
Probably because they have a deal with ESPN.
Yeah.
And ESPN wants at least something on there. So they're giving them BJ Penn. They're giving them Nogueira. Casual people flipping by be like, oh, BJ Penn, it's on this? Cool.
But how does that conversation go down? You're a network executive and you're sitting at a table and the guy from ESPN says, oh, you got to give us something. Motherfucker, you don't even know what something is. You don't know what this sport is. Do you, honestly, if they were like, I'll tell you what, dude, we're going to give you Kurt Holloway versus Thiago Moises. Do you think they know any difference than if you told them we're going to give you Worley Alves versus Sergio Moraes?
That's why you give them the old school names that they know. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, have you heard the Nogueira brothers? Yeah, I think I heard of them.
So you got to do a better job of promoting those fights. And then the problem is the prelims do a bad number anyways, but do an okay number in the grand scheme of things. And then your pay-per-view sells 100,000 buys or less. If you look at, did you think that 236 was a worse card?
No,
a better card. Didn't sell at all.
It was an awesome card. Top 2 fights were great.
for sure. And then the rest of it, people don't give a fuck about. And it ended up being a really fun card. But this is, and listen, the last time they came to Brazil, I think it was, if our memory serves me right, a really fun card. There's always fun, exciting fights. I just mean, it's not going to sell much. I don't even know why we're talking about this right now. It is what it is. Again,
you know who doesn't get paid a cent whether they sell a pay-per-view or a million pay-per-views? Me or you. So it doesn't really matter to me.
Okay, I think I got a lot of favorites on this card. Just to...
All right. Yeah, you can do your regular thing.
I guess I'm going to run through. I'm going to take Andrade, who's the favorite. Cannoneer, favorite. Volkanovski's the underdog. What? Thiago Alves. I'll take Trinaldo. I need another dog. Nogueira, another dog. Moises. Aldana. I would pass just because that's way too big of a price. But Clay Guida should win by all rights. Luana Carolina, Warley Alves, Raoni Barcelos, and Talina Bernardo. But again, you got to see the price on that.
We don't feel as
good.
Because
if she's 600 like Clay Guida, it'll be the same fucking boat. I just don't trust it enough, despite the fact that they should win. Should doesn't always go down that way. You want to talk about should? Warley Alves' last fight against James Krause. Like, it was like a 5-1 favorite, and he's non-competitive. He gets fucked up. It's like, why was he a 5-1 favorite? Like, sometimes it's just bad pricing, and you got to watch out for that.
And yeah, so like last week we're pretty happy with everything.
Main event got me, Zahabi got me, and Juan Adams.
I know. What I was going to say is that we actually really liked our spots across the board on that card. And this week we do not to the same extent. So tread carefully, essentially. Like last week, obviously we both liked Ally Quinta. That did not play out. That cowboy who showed up was freaking on the money, man. So good on him. I take that loss.
You need to.
And then there was Juan Adams, who I don't know what dimension those refs were in, but
it was a shit fight. I thought he won. I thought he won, but
and that's the thing is I didn't feel
terrible fight.
I felt more. I wasn't as mad about the decision, even though it screwed me on some bets and obviously on DraftKings and stuff. I was more mad at myself for putting as much faith into a bum heavyweight fighter like Juan Adams as I did.
I got to grind gear, Paul.
What?
No human being who puts on a shit performance like that
should talk as much shit as he did after the fact.
Oh, we're talking about Juan Adams? I'm saying, why would anybody call out Andre Arlovsky, who, first of all, is on a bad streak, and is an OG legend?
Both of those guys in that
I'm going to neuter the Pitbull? Fuck out of here, bud.
Yeah.
Don't rewatch this fight, bud, because this is a bad fight. And you're going to call out an OG like Andre Arlovsky, who, by the way, I think would beat Arjan Bular.
And by the way, that may be the most boring heavyweight fight they could possibly book right now.
Arlovsky's been fighting a lot of those recently. I hate to say it, but
I know.
If you know you can't take a punch, then you can't throw punchy kicky anymore.
Yeah.
You have to have boring fights. Sorry. But I love Arlovsky. He's done enough for me, so he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Hopefully, if they do book him and Bular, I hope he shows him a lesson. To me, that's disrespectful.
Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams.
Yeah. Call out Greg Hardy, because he's some young buck who's got a checkered history. Don't call out Andre Arlovsky, you know what I mean? Like, anyways, that was my beef. That was my beef, and it was a bad fight, is what it is. But he won, so ultimately, hopefully he makes improvements and improves. But
well, that wraps it up for us this week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to Cody Saftic breaking down the fights with me as always. Thank you to Chad Dow. Stock is rising on our friend Chad Dow, behind the scenes doing all the cuts and everything else like that, helping out with us. Thank you. Yeah. So for Cody and Chad, I am Paul. Saying goodbye. Good luck.
Mayo experience. Experience.